First of all, the visuals are still good. Everything is very pretty, although the animation does look kinda wonky sometimes. But everything is nice to look at. But that's pretty much the best part of this game. The gameplay is very subpar. I find it boring, tedious, and repetitive. I don't like the open world. The open world is mostly boring with no notable landmarks that I wanted to explore. The game does have different biomes, but it's still not that interesting. It's mostly empty, mostly consisting of ancient ruins and machines, none of which were interesting. There was nothing that I felt compelled to explore. The traversal is also pretty basic. You can either travel on foot or by horse. Traversal on foot feels fine and it's not too slow, but traversing on a horse feels kinda clunky. I find it tedious and annoying to maneuver with the horse. I also don't like how you have to tap X to move faster. It just feels weird. I often just opted to travel on foot because it just made things easier. I also think it would have been cool if we could fly some of the machines. Also, the environments in this game just weren't good. It was all either generic open world fields or generic ruins in these facilities. None of these environments were memorable, and I had no desire to explore them. The combat is very mid at best. The melee combat is particularly pretty bad. I wish there was a lock on, and I don't know why there isn't one. This doesn't make the combat unplayable, but the game is only worse off for not having it. Also, the enemy attack animations aren't always clear, and they come out too fast most of the time. The enemies also have inconsistent cooldowns after an attack, so I never really know when it's safe to counterattack. I feel completely hopeless when I'm fighting more than one enemy. This makes me feel forced to fight enemies from range. I also feel like there should have been a block button. The melee combat just feels clunky, unfair, and unfun most of the time. You can't even upgrade your spear until you play the DLC. The range combat is decent. The bow is decently fun to use, and the environment served the bow combat pretty well. There's a lot of places you can take cover, and you can balance on ropes to get more angles. Also just like using bows in combat in games. But the problem is that the game only really incentivizes range combat, which leads me to the RPG elements of this game. Horizon Zero Dawn is not a good RPG. It heavily incentivizes you to only use your bow, and using a melee weapon is pretty much useless. This obviously heavily reduces the ways you can viably play the game. I prefer melee combat in action RPGs, and I can't play this game the way I want to. RPGs are supposed to have multiple viable playstyles. This game does not. This makes the game way less replayable than it could have been. There's also no incoming damage indicators for ranged attacks, so you'll constantly be getting hit by things off screen with no way to avoid them. This is not fair or fun. I also don't find the enemies to be that interesting at all. None of the enemies stood out to me. The humans were all boring and felt the same to fight. Yeah, some of them had different weapons, but my basic strategy was the same. Keep my distance and damage them from range. I did find the machines more fun to fight than the humans. The enemies also have weak points you can target, and some enemies have specific elemental weaknesses, which is good, but pretty standard for RPGs. But yeah, the enemies just weren't very interesting. The weapon variety isn't very good either. All the weapons felt pretty much the same. I never felt the need to use anything other than my bow, and none of the other weapon choices felt rewarding to use. The mission variety wasn't very interesting, and they all felt the same.